and welcome to another episode of Tea Talk. I'm really sorry for the ones who've been waiting for more content to be uploaded. It's been ages since I made the last video or made the last recording. I had really aimed to do a lot more, a lot quicker, but I got busy. You know, life happens, so I apologise for that, but I'm back on track, and today's topic is what I've chosen to call the Feminist Paradox. Now, even as a woman who, obviously I believe in gender equality, I believe in women's rights, I am outraged by the fact that, in a lot of countries, women have, less rights than men. They might make less money than men for the same job. They're treated as subordinate in some way. And that provokes me a lot. And I think, as a woman, that's how it should be. Women who say, oh, I'm alright, so it's not really my battle. I don't know, I think that's a bit cowardly. But anyway, as much as I do, have those beliefs, there are a lot of things that confuse me about this whole feminist movement. And it might be a bit controversial to say, and I think a lot of women stay quiet because of it. Because you don't want to talk against a movement who, has changed so much. And, the feminist movement, if you can even call it that, I'm not really sure if it's one movement. I think there might be a lot of different forces, some pulling in the same direction and some forces pulling in other directions, which makes it complicated. And that's where I get to my point, that it can be a bit confusing when it goes beyond, what I just said about believing in the fundamental rights and so on. It can sometimes get a little bit tricky because some women, unfortunately, they seem like they look down upon men. They seem like they actually want the opposite of what history has had, which has been, male dominance, that they actually want female dominance now. That's not right. I don't agree with that. Leave a comment if you think, that's right, but it's not like, just like with suppression of, let's say, black people in the States. You want equality. You want everyone to wake up and feel like they're as much as everyone else and they can do as much as everyone else, but you don't want the tables to be turned to the point where one group is now feeling superior. It's the same thing. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would we want to dominate men? I don't think men or women need to be dominated by the other gender. And so that brings me to the story that actually made me think of this. I think it's a few years back now. And the group Outkast had several concerts in Sweden and Norway. And other countries too. It was in the summer, a range of festivals they were around playing. So Sweden is known to be quite a equal society. And they're also quite politically correct. And it definitely has its benefits, but it could be that there are some downsides to it as well. I'm not going to go into the whole immigration topic now, that's a heated one. But I know that some people perceive that they can't speak their opinion because of a very strong force of political correctness. And I think that can be dangerous. If you silence people who have something on their mind, even if they're mistaken about where they should direct their anger, it's very important to hear people's voices, because if that anger is allowed to build up in hiding, it becomes a lot more dangerous. That's what I believe, anyway. And so, back to the concerts. Outkast had a concert, and they were playing in Sweden, and during the concert, at some point in time, an image was blown up on the screen behind them as they were performing. And the image in question was a woman twerking, showing the booty to the audience. It wasn't live, it was recorded, and they were playing this. And it caused controversy to the point where some women, I think predominantly, left the concert because they felt like, this was wrong. This is sexualization of women, it's glorifying a negative culture, making something look cool when really it's, in a sense, discrimination of women. And it caused a bit of a, media stir. I'll see if I can find some links to this I can put below. And someone I know, or someone I've spoken to, he actually wrote an article in a newspaper about this because he is a music journalist, and he said that you got it all wrong. The reason why they used that, I suppose, stripping reference or the twerking was because the music they were playing at the moment in the concert were very heavily referencing that community, that society, that lifestyle, that culture. And so it becomes interesting when you then have Swedish, I suppose, feminists leaving the concert. And first of all, I think they should have known, what they were in for. That's another topic. But ironically, Outkast is known to be conscious when it comes to gender inequalities. They've written quite a lot of music that actually portrays the woman in a different role than subordinate. So, if anything, I'm not sure if they were the ones who should have been criticised. There's a lot of negativity in the rap culture. That's for another talk. But anyway, they received quite a lot of hate from the Swedes because of this. But at the same time, maybe the audience didn't necessarily understand the reference. And that brings me to the next point, is that someone is the owner of the bum that was shaking on stage. Some woman somewhere, likely in the States, likely, someone who's been hired by Outkast, was quite happy to be filmed doing that and for her butt to be used in the concert. Most likely. I don't know this person, I don't know who this is, but there's a likelihood that she was quite happy to do that. And so, what does it become then? Does that mean that she is just a victim of her own culture and she is actually being abused doing that? Or are we discrediting someone when we just draw conclusions on how they felt doing something and who they are and whether they're a victim or not? Or is that actually a negative side of feminism, that we victimize women when there's no need to? And I think in some cases we do. Especially if we don't understand the culture that we're criticizing. Yes, you can criticize a culture where there's over-sexualization of anyone, and many places it's women, young women, girls being sexualized. I don't think it's right, but I also don't think that Scandinavians necessarily understand the bigger cultural context. And so let's say, okay, she wasn't a victim. She actually quite, enjoyed doing that. She felt confident about her body and she felt like, yeah, that was cool. In her mind, in her situation, there was nothing wrong with doing that. Okay, should we still kind of victimize her? Should we still be offended by it? And if we are offended by it, should we direct that negativity towards her? Towards them, her portraying it? This leads me to the paradox, is that men can get, they can get the blame for portraying women in these sexualized situations, or glorifying that, or worshipping that aspect of women, instead of focusing on, brains and intellect and other qualities that should be more important. However, when you have female artists doing essentially what that woman was doing, they're showing off their body. Their music is loaded with sexual references. They clearly quite enjoy the sexuality aspect of their performances and their music. So how about them then? Are they victims too? Should they be protected in a sense? Are the men still the bad guys? And that leads me to the point of the issue. A lot of women who call themselves feminists will still support these women showing off their bodies, using sex quite heavily, And they'll say they're free. They're using their bodies the way they want to. They are not being told by anyone what to do. This is what they want to do, and it's a form of female empowerment. It's a form of expressing yourself and your sexuality in a confident way. And, there has been debated a lot in feminism that sometimes female sexuality is seen as something bad because women are not supposed to be sexual, we're not supposed to want to have sex, and we're supposed to be innocent little virgins, which is quite silly, but it has really been a big part of how women have had to be portrayed. So that's real. It's real that women have been that their sexuality has been taken away from them, but the paradox is that you can support someone like Nicki Minaj or someone like Beyonce. They are very sexual, and other women can praise that. Feminists can praise that. But at the same time, if the men portray it, support it, request it, then they are the bad guys. I don't have all the answer to this, but this, was just something that came to my mind, and I find it interesting. I think we need to speak more about what all of this means. What does this sexualization mean? I'll link an article below where, they've done studies showing that women who show off their body more and they use their sexuality in their presentation of themselves are actually less happy with themselves than other women, which it will, in a sense, contradict the whole thing about, I'm a strong woman doing what I want to do with my body and that's why I'm showing it off. So actually those findings that these women might be more insecure and less confident, that's more in line with, I guess, an idea that this sexual behaviour, overemphasis on the sexuality, is actually because you want some kind of attention or reassurance, or, you want to be good enough, in a sense. So it's all very interesting, and it can be a bit confusing, and it's very hard to talk about without causing controversy, but I would really appreciate your opinions and comments, and let's take the discussion from there. And now I'm going to move into other topics related to this as we go on. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.